Welcome back to This Week in Film. It's the weekly podcast where we get together and talk about the movies we've seen over the past 7 days. I'm Nick Panunto, joined as always by Midwest Matt Lauer. Matt, how's it going?
It's going well, Nick. How are you?
I'm doing robotically fine.
Cool.
I've seen 2 movies this week.
Well, what'd you see?
I saw a movie from 2004 called Primer, and I watched a DC animated movie.
For God's sake.
Called Teen Titans, The Judas Contract from 2017.
Huh. That's what I should have watched. I should have watched Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
You should have. That's a fun movie. What did you see, Matt?
I saw. Dang it! I just had it up, and then I went to then I went to add that to my list. I saw 4 minutes and 7 seconds of a movie called 30 Miles from Nowhere, and then I saw the whole movie of a movie called Triple Frontier.
Okay. Well, why don't I start? Actually, why don't we start with your 4-minute movie?
Yeah, okay. So I was looking through some sort of source that I have of movie watching, and I saw this option called 30 Miles from Nowhere, and it stars Carrie Preston and Rob Benedict. Don't know who they are? Neither do I. And I was like, all right, well, it said something about 5 people get lost in Wisconsin or something and are going to be attacked by stuff. And it started with a jump scare, and then first line was shit because the woman was scared by the jump scare, which was like a cat jumping at a car window, like the laziest jump scare I've seen in a while. Uh-huh. And then or maybe a dog, I don't know. And then the next scene, or maybe two scenes later, like the shot cuts to another shot, and at the beginning of the shot the camera was like still being moved in place. And then I heard people talk for a few minutes at a bar, and I was like, I can't watch this.
Is that bad?
I don't know, but I definitely didn't have the patience for it at the time. Okay. It's just like, you know what? I don't even care where this is leading. I don't want to sit through a bunch of crap to get there, and I'm not in the mood for terrible acting. And so I just didn't feel it. So
okay,
so
fair enough.
30 Miles from Nowhere, you're not getting a second chance. Sorry, buddy.
I don't even know if we should count that as one of the movies you watched.
Oh no, I won't take credit for having sat through.
All right. Well, then that brings me to the DC animated movie, Teen Titans: The Judas Contract. This movie was okay. It was directed by Sam Liu, the guy who makes all the bad DC animated movies. It had that same.
You're just not even trying to find something that's good.
This one was okay. It's better than some of the other ones. It feels like it's a sequel to another like movie because it has all these characters in it that they don't really introduce all that much. But like the movie starts off 5 years ago. It says 5 years ago, and it starts off with I guess just like the original Teen Titans, which is Robin, Kid Flash, which is just awful. The Kid Green Arrow guy, who I think his name is Speedy, which doesn't
really?
make any yeah.
I would expect it to be like Green Dart or something.
No, yeah, it's awful. It's really bad. But like that's what I think it is. It's Speedy, Kid Flash, Dick Grayson's Robin, and I want to say Beast Boy is there. And then like we do this whole intro thing where Starfire comes from outer space, and she's hot, and Robin's like, oh man, this chick is hot, and she doesn't speak English until she like makes out with Robin, and she's like, on my planet, kissing is how we learn languages. And Robin's like, okay. And then they rescue Starfire from these alien.
And then he's like, cool, I'm going to take off my pants and teach you math.
Yeah. So like they rescue Starfire from these aliens, and then like it just says 5 years later or now, and it's like a whole different group of Teen Titans. They live in this building in the shape of a T, which I thought was just a joke from the Teen Titans cartoon movie, because like in the Teen Titans like Cartoon Network TV show and that Teen Titans Go to the movie, they live in this giant T, like the letter T.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was a silly gag, but apparently that's like a thing. Like they actually live in this T, like a giant building in the shape of a T for Teen Titans. And it's 5 years later, and there's a whole new group of Teen Titans. Like Kid Flash isn't there anymore. Speedy isn't there anymore, but Beast Boy is still there, and he's like the same age. Damian Wayne is the new Robin, and he's there. And
wow, they just skipped over like 3 Robins.
Yeah, they did. And then like Nightwing is there. Like it's Dick Grayson's Nightwing. And then this Starfire chick, the girl from the other dimension, is she's like the leader of the Teen Titans now, and Nightwing had been gone for a while, and he comes back. So like this movie feels like it's a sequel to something, but I guess I didn't see the original, because it has like this whole story that like it's like continuing, and you're like, I don't know what's going on. But so like the main villain in this movie is Brother Blood, and he's like a religious fanatic who's been alive for 900 years, and he bathes in the blood of his enemies, and that's what keeps him young and so healthy looking. And his plan is to steal the powers of the Teen Titans and become a super villain or whatever. And long story short, the Teen Titans win.
Oh,
and yeah, and
it's a real twist ending.
Yeah, it's not very good. I mean, it's not terrible. There's definitely way worse ones. But the one thing that really made me laugh is it's got that cheap DC Universe animation style, but like there's like a couple of scenes where it shows someone walking away, and it's like a wide shot from head to toe of the character walking away, and they're just taking these tiny little steps like Peg Bundy from Married with Children, like walking around, and it's so funny looking. It's like this little waddle where like doot 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 doot.
Are they moving faster than their steps would justify?
Yes. Yeah. It's like this dainty little walk where they're like doot doot doot, just walking away. But as far as the DC movies go, this one was pretty average. Like it wasn't terrible. Like I was interested the whole time, but it definitely has that thing I've complained about before, where the lines are all recorded separately.
Yeah.
That's still very distracting. But as far as being a cohesive movie, this is one of the better DC animated movies. It's really about all I have to say. That's not a good sign,
given that you said it feels like a sequel and you don't know what's going on.
Well, I mean, if it's a sequel to something and I didn't see the original, then that's on me.
Oh, you mean you actually think it's a sequel?
Yeah, like it feels like it's continuing. Okay. It feels like it's continuing a story, and I'm not sure if I saw the original story.
I completely misunderstood you there. I thought you were saying, this movie is a movie that feels like a sequel, even though it's not.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and at one point, Damian Wayne gets there's one of the characters in the movie is working for the bad guy. Like one of the Teen Titans is working for the bad guy, and the bad guy's Deathstroke. Deathstroke's the guy with one eye, right?
Sounds right.
And he and this one chick who is one of the Teen Titans. She's like working undercover to like capture the Teen Titans, and they betray Robin, the Damian Wayne Robin. And there's like a pretty cool fight sequence between Deathstroke and Robin, and this Robin is like 12 years old because it's the Damian Wayne Robin.
Uh-huh.
And he's got his sword, and he's going up against Deathstroke, who's just beating the crap out of him, which is pretty entertaining. And then the girl that's betrayed them has the power to control rocks or something like that. And she like captures Robin, and like later in their hideout, she's got Robin like attached to the wall with rocks, and Robin is just taunting Deathstroke, and Deathstroke comes over and just punches him in the stomach while he's all tied up. I really enjoyed that because I don't really care for the Damian Wayne Robin very much.
The Damian Wayne Robin isn't all that different from the Jason Todd Robin.
Yeah. Like the only real difference is just that it's Bruce's son, right?
Yeah, the story's different, but just like the attitude.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's really all I have to say about that. As far as the DC animated movies go, it's worth, I'd say it's worth checking out, but there are probably better ones, but not many. So you saw another movie, Matt.
I did. I saw Triple Frontier.
Oh boy, I saw 2 minutes of that movie and turned it off.
Well, you might have made a good choice. So this is a Netflix movie, and it's come out, I think, somewhere within the last month. And it's got Ben Affleck, Oscar Isaac, and then disposable guys. One dude is, I think, from Pacific Rim, but I didn't look up his name. And so anyway, the plot of this movie is that I'm going to keep wanting to say these three guys because it feels like Ben Affleck, Oscar Isaac, and the guy from Pacific Rim are like the actual characters, and these other two guys with them are just like expendable guys. So anyway, the third guy starts out the movie. It's like, oh, he's like talking to this group of people, and they're army guys. And he's talking to them about how like he snapped on some guy in a supermarket or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, he's talking to these guys about having PTSD and being hypervigilant and really anxious and reactive and stuff. But it cuts back to him a little later, and it turns out that it's some sort of pep talk. It's some sort of pep talk to these guys about like, go out there and be awesome. Being in the army is the best. And then Ben Affleck is retired, and he is trying to sell real estate, and it's not going well.
Yeah, the part where that guy's giving that pep talk is where I was like, oh, I see. No more for me.
I actually considered changing it then too. I was like, oh, not another movie. I don't want to find a third one. And then Oscar. So Ben Affleck also has a daughter. That's a pretty key point. And then Oscar Isaac is still active, and you see him do some sort of drug bust in a South American country. I didn't catch which one. And it really is like got a hard on for this like drug kingpin. So he does this one bust, and he's like, yeah, you know what? I want to bust this guy all the way. Like I don't want to just catch some of his goons. I want to catch this guy, and starts thinking, maybe I can do this and make a whole lot more money doing it. So he comes back to these other guys and starts kind of pressuring them and trying to convince them that they should go with him down to this country. And he's got some sort of deal where like they get a percentage of anything that they seize in a bust. So it's supposed to be like millions and millions of dollars. So if we do that, then we'll get a big chunk of this money. And the movie kind of goes on from there, where they do, I mean, first he convinces those three guys or those two guys. And then while he's like talking to one of them in a boxing match, I guess his brother's a boxer. And then there's another guy and he's like, okay, so we got our helicopter pilot and we got our this, like everything's got a name. Like Ben Affleck is like the, I don't know, planner guy. And it's almost like technical term.
Yeah. Ben Affleck, you'll be planner guy.
Yeah, you be the pilot, you be the planner guy. The things do have names, and it's like, I don't know. It's supposed to be catchy, I think. It feels a little bit like it wants to be Ocean's 11, but there's no humor in this movie. None at all. Okay. And without it, there's also not a lot of fun. And this movie just kind of, it has a feeling that I think a lot of these like Netflix movies do, where it's like, doesn't quite feel like an actual movie. Like there's something about it that is missing. One thing is the way that conflicts pop up and resolve. And I'm starting to think that this is a big element of these movies that don't feel like real movies, is that the plotting of it, the timing of things is such that the writer goes, oh, here's a conflict. Let me bring that up. And instead of setting it in there as a plot that could keep continuing and then resolving later in the movie, it just pops up and is resolved right away. Mm-hmm. Like the writers don't realize that you can come back to it. They're like, oh, well, that was that part. Next part. And it's very like sort of episodic almost with the conflicts. Even though the plot itself, I mean, is not episodic. It's not like there are 20 different plots. It's just these sort of tensions and things that show up between the characters. They're just like, hey, that just happened. Sorry, I did that. And I'm like, wait a minute. You didn't even get any time to like simmer or be pissed at each other. And when it comes to the whole planning thing, don't get me wrong. The things that are like things like Ocean's 11, when there's plotting going on, they're not actually all laid out there. And if you were to look at how the team gets put together in Ocean's 11, I'm sure you'd find some flaws in how they set things up, how they plan. But in this movie, they're already in the country getting ready to do something on Thursday. Now, I don't know what day it is, but they're like, we have to do this stuff by Thursday. That's when we're going to be robbing this drug kingpin guy. And the main guy, the Oscar Isaac, whose idea this whole thing is, turns to one of the other guys and he's like, can you get your helicopter friend by Thursday? Like, this is the planning ahead, is you just assume this guy's available, that he's like not on vacation or anything like that. Or what if he said no? What if he's like, actually, we're not friends anymore? No, I can't. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't seem real at all in that way either. And in terms of like kind of the both of those things together, the planning and the conflict sort of thing, when it comes to convincing these guys to join him, they're like, nah, okay. Ben Affleck's character is really not into it. And then the next like conversation they have, which is like a few minutes later in the movie, I think, Ben Affleck's like, I just keep thinking about how much the government screwed me over and how much it sucks. And I'm like, wait a minute, who's convincing who here? Because a minute ago you were acting like, well, I guess it's a different day, but in the movie,
Wednesday or Friday.
It's Wednesday. We got to convince Ben Affleck by Thursday and get down there in South America, then get a helicopter pilot or a guy with a helicopter. They already had a pilot. They just didn't figure out that they needed transportation. So there's a lot of that stuff that just, it's too easy and convenient, and they try to make it not like, it's like, oh, we're going to have this guy argue, but it's really unconvincing. And it would actually make a lot more sense in terms of how they're writing it to just be like, hey, these guys are all on board. It's there to try to put in some dramatic pressure, but it doesn't work anyway. And then once Ben Affleck's on board, there are a couple scenes in this movie where there are briefings, and it's like, all right, listen, man, when we get down there, where if we get injured, then you're going to have the injuries you have. We do not have the government on our side. We are not wearing the flag, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, allow me to explain the movie to you. These guys already understand it, but how about having one of them explain it to the rest of them? And it'll make sense that he's doing that because, like we said, he's the planner. There is a plot point in this movie that I didn't expect to happen the way it did. And it's probably the darkest moment in the movie, and it's probably also it's the best part of the movie because it's the most interesting. And it's not because you're actually invested. It's not because I was actually invested. I'm like, I don't really care here. I'm watching this, and it's not terrible. Like, this movie's it's not an awful movie, but I definitely was like, hey, you know what? The only reason I'm actually enjoying this plot point is that it's the first part of this movie that's actually been kind of interesting and surprised me a bit. There's not a ton for me to say about this movie. It's very middle of the road. There definitely are things that don't make sense, like that, calling a guy on whatever day to get a helicopter on Thursday. There's one point where someone gets, someone's just been shot. So, like, clearly there are people around and they're not safe. And one of the characters just decides it's time to start singing. And it's not like singing for like he's singing a jaunty tune or something like that. But it still just makes no sense. I'm like, you guys are trying to sneak around with a bunch of stuff. You've just been shot at. Why would you walk around singing? And I think the answer, and it certainly feels like the answer, is the writer had an idea. At some point, the writer went, oh, I could have one of these guys sing. Okay, cool. That has to go in there then. Even if it's not good or makes sense. And then the end of this movie really treats you as though you have gotten absorbed in these characters. Like it acts like it really feels like it's doing something dramatic. And I am just like, wow, I really don't care at all. And I don't expect, now I can be like that anyway. There are times where I'm watching movies where I'm like, all right, people around me are tearing up, but I'm not really feeling this because it just wasn't good enough. But this is one where I'm like, I don't think anybody would care. And it's kind of strange given what's happened. But I honestly don't think there's anybody watching this movie who would be invested in any of these characters. And the funny thing is, it's not because they're acting badly. Oscar Isaac's fine. Ben Affleck does a fine job. Even the guy from Pacific Rim's pretty good. And then the other two are unnoticeable, so I guess they're good. Because you don't know. I didn't notice any bad acting. But it's I guess it's just bad writing and timing. You know, the way it flows, just there's nothing there to really get attached to. I think one of the characters in particular, I think Ben Affleck's character, they're like, you're attached to him because he has a daughter. And I'm like, no, that doesn't. You don't automatically love characters just because they have kids or families. I'm like, I know a lot of people who have families. In fact, I don't think I've ever met anyone who didn't have any family. Everyone I know came from a parent. So,
right.
Yeah. That's all I got. If you have 2 hours to kill and you don't want to watch an 80s movie, but you want to watch a somewhat action movie that has about as much depth, go ahead and watch this.
Huh. Yeah, we tried to watch it, and we got to that opening sequence, like we said, and we were just like, no.
Well, actually, you know what? Now that I said action movie, I think I'm realizing part of the problem with this movie is it doesn't actually fit well into a genre. There's not much action in it. It's probably meant to be more of a drama, but because the characters are not engaging at all, it doesn't succeed on that level.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, Triple Frontier. Maybe check it out if you're really bored.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, then that brings me to the other movie that I watched this week. And this movie is a real, what does Cypher say in The Matrix?
Mind job.
This movie is a real mind job. It's called Primer. It's from the year 2004. Directed, written, produced by this guy named Shane Carruth, who also stars in the movie. And this movie is notable because it is a very complicated plot, and it was made for $7,000. And it looks like it was made for $7,000. It's got like a real grainy look to it, like it was filmed on real cheap cameras. And that's not saying it's poorly made, but it just looks like it's very independent. Anyway, so this is going to be difficult to talk about. If you haven't seen this movie and you're interested in seeing it, I would suggest turning off this review now because I'm going to spoil it. And because there's
Just kidding.
There's really no way to talk about it without spoiling it. But I will say, if you're interested, I'll read the IMDb description real quick. And it's the IMDb description is wrong immediately, where it says 4 friends / fledgling entrepreneurs, knowing that there's something bigger and more innovative than the different error checking devices they've built, wrestle over a new invention. So that kind of happens.
Okay.
So at this point, I'm going to get into spoilers. So there are 4 guys that they work in a garage, and they like make computer components or something, kind of like, like a garage computer business. But like 2 of the guys are working on this one project. And 2 other guys are working on this other project. They just kind of share the garage.
Okay.
So like there's the 2 main guys who are Aaron and Abe. And Aaron and Abe are working on this machine that's supposed to do something. I'm not entirely sure what they think it's supposed to do, but basically, they invent a time machine.
Oh.
Yeah. And the movie, this is a real quick movie. The movie is like 76 minutes long. It's like an hour 17, so I guess 87, whatever. And it takes like about half an hour for them to realize what they've invented, because they invent something and it does some weird stuff, and they're trying to figure out like, what the hell does this machine do? Because it's about the size of a large microwave.
Okay.
And they like put stuff in it and it like reacts weird. And they it comes out covered in slime or whatever, and they take it to some lab to find out what the slime is. And basically it's just this fungus that grows on everything. And they're like, okay, well this happened in like 6 hours, and the lab scientist is like, that's impossible, because to get this much slime, it would take about 5 years to collect this much fungus.
Okay.
And they're like, well, that's ridiculous. And so like they don't know what to do with what they have. Like they're like, do we publish a paper on what we've created? And they're like, we don't even know what we've created. Mm-hmm. And then one of the guys gets the idea to put a watch inside it. And it's kind of like the Back to the Future thing, where they put it in the machine and they let it run for a period of time. And when they take it out, it's like 6 hours. The time is off by 6 hours.
Okay.
And they're like, oh. And they're like, basically, long story, as I've already said, they invent a time machine. And what makes this movie really, really complicated or difficult to explain. Like, I watched this movie and then I had to read like 2 or 3 different Wikipedia articles to try and figure out what I just watched, because it's not like super complicated, but it's difficult to understand what's going on, because the movie's told in kind of a non-linear fashion.
Okay.
Where you're watching the movie based on, so the movie's really based on paradoxes. And the guys who travel through time, like basically they scale up the invention so that they can go inside it, so that they can travel back in time. Right. But they're afraid of paradoxes, like you know, like if you kill your own mother, you're never born, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But like if you're never born, then you never invent the time machine, which means you never went back in time to kill your mom, kind of a thing.
Yeah, these like unclosable loops.
Exactly. So what they try to do is to figure out a way to avoid that. So what they do is they come up with this scheme, and I'm going to pull up the Wikipedia. There's a picture on Wikipedia that kind of explains it. So here, the first step is the original person on an undisturbed timeline decides to time travel. Step 2, he activates a time-delayed switch and leaves the area to avoid encountering his double. All right?
Okay.
So he turns on the time machine, and then he leaves.
Get the hell out of there.
Right. As he leaves, he comes out of the time machine because it's now like 6 hours in the past. So like as that guy leaves, he also leaves the time machine.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So the original guy goes to like a hotel to like avoid anything that could avoid and it says avoids of causative action, which I guess is a paradox, like causing a paradox. So like he goes to this hotel and isolates himself from anything except for like looking at the stock market, because they're also going to try to get rich. That's like their scheme, is they're going to try to get rich by betting on the stock market, because they'll know what the stock price is going to be at the end of the day.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, when like all the stock stuff is figured out, he goes back to the time machine and gets inside. And inside the time machine, 6 hours goes by while he's going into the past. And then he comes out of the box just as the other guy, the original guy, was leaving.
Okay.
You still with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
and so then, yeah. And so then the guy who comes out of the time machine now has 6 hours of knowing what the future is going to be. and can make changes based on that. And then it says the double creates an altered future for the double alone, and the original loses his existence in the loop since his future is only to enter inside the box.
Okay.
Okay. So that's basically the plot of the movie is this. And then things start to get more complicated because there's one dude who is really like, he's got all these rules. He's like, we can't do this, we can't do that. You can't have your cell phone with you. You can't have a newspaper or TV because you can't know what's happening in the world other than what we're trying to change. Because if we try to change too much, things will get weird. And then the one guy, let me pull up the name again because their names are kind of confused. It sucks that they both have names that begin with A. There's Aaron and Abe, so you get confused as to who's who. But the guy Abe is the guy who's really into the rules, and the dude Aaron is like kind of a loose cannon, and he's the one who causes all the problems. So basically, Aaron brings his cell phone one day and he gets a call and he takes the call. Now, this is where it starts to get really confusing because Aaron takes the call while he's supposed to be inside the time machine. The person who called him, that call never gets answered. It's so confusing. Like, I'm trying to explain it, but I don't really understand it. And this is where the problems start happening. And basically they have to start going into the time machine to correct stuff. And every time they go back into the machine to correct things, something else goes wrong. And then they find out like there's like a party with like a group of all their friends, and some guy brings a gun. And so then they're like, well, we got to stop this guy with the gun. And it kind of turns into a Groundhog's Day scenario where they have to learn what's everything that's going to happen so that they can stop this guy with the gun from terrorizing somebody. And it gets real complicated. And while all this is happening, some other guy shows up who appears to have been using the time machine. And so that means that one of them has betrayed the other. And then this is where it gets even more complicated, because remember, the original person is supposed to just disappear because the double takes over.
Right.
This doesn't happen because they changed something. So now there's more than one of them running around at the same time.
Okay.
And what's really interesting, or which isn't very clear, is you're watching the story of one of the doubles, not like the actual. And it's very confusing. Like you notice, like one of the guys has this earpiece in, and he's just listening to everything that's going to happen. And it's very difficult to try to explain. Like, I want to watch the movie again, having read all these articles about it to explain it to me. Because maybe I'll be able to follow the story a little more, which is why I wanted you to watch it too, because I was like, please explain this to me.
I'm kind of intrigued now.
Yeah, it's really a smart kind of time travel movie, and it's very complicated, and I want someone to explain what I just saw to me. But I guess that's really all I have to say about it. It's not the best movie ever, but it's very interesting, and like the way it tries to answer like time travel paradoxes is very cool. Or very smart, and it's definitely worth checking out. And as far as like a filmmaking on an extremely low budget, it's quite an accomplishment too, because like the time travel in the movie it's like the cheapest thing you could possibly do. Like, it doesn't do like some crazy computer generated thing. It's just these guys inside a box, and then they come out of the box, and it's the past now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So all this like complexity and stuff, and some of the needing to put the pieces back together, you come away from it, even if you didn't understand every single thing, like not with the sense that it's messy because it's like poorly done, but just because it's very complicated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like the guy who wrote and directed the movie is like a mathematical engineer or something.
Okay.
Let me see. He's got a degree in mathematics and is a former engineer. And it says he chose not to simplify the story for the sake of the audience. So it's like a movie, like almost made for engineers. Like the first 30 minutes of this movie, when they're like making the machine, I don't really understand what's happening at all, because they're supposed to be like these, like garage computer guys, like creating their own like Apple computer systems or whatever. And you're just kind of barely hanging on, trying to follow what's going on. And then eventually all that stuff doesn't really matter. Like the beginning of this movie could have totally been eliminated completely. Like the first 20 minutes of this movie, it does not matter to the movie, but you're like trying to pay attention, and the audio quality isn't super great. But it's definitely worth checking out. I would highly recommend it. Okay. It's definitely a really cool time travel movie. And also, if you've seen it, please explain it to me. especially the end, when things start going really weird. So yeah, Primer, definitely worth checking out. So we have a response to our questions from a couple weeks back. Remember we were talking about fandom events?
Yeah.
I've changed subjects.
I'm with you.
A couple weeks back, we asked if anybody had ever been to a fandom movie event at the movie theater, and listener Travis to the show, he came up and told me he has been to a fandom event. He went to see like a Ghostbusters screening, and he said it was pretty cool, except that leading up to the movie, there was 30 minutes worth of commercials.
Ugh.
Yeah, he said like the movie started at 8, but from 8 to 8:30, it was just commercials, and not like previews, just like full on commercials. He said to the point where somebody got up and complained.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, but he said he enjoyed the experience enough that he would go again. I think he said he's going to see something else sometime soon.
I'd be curious if it's something that's not a movie. If it's like the opera or something like that.
Yeah, that's true.
There was actually something I saw.
Oh, and he said
a preview for that was a fandom event that looked kind of interesting. And now I don't remember what it was. Sorry.
He said that the ticket cost was as much as a regular movie.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it wasn't any more expensive or any cheaper. So, yeah. So that's response corner.
Well, I have a corner to potentially throw in here.
All right, fresh corner.
Nick, have you seen the preview for Sonic the Hedgehog?
I sure did.
What did you think of this? 'Cause I heard people being really pissed about this. So yesterday I had like a minute where I was like, okay, you know what? While I've got like a couple minutes to kill, let me go ahead and watch this preview for Sonic the Hedgehog. And then as I'm watching it, I'm like, I gotta find out what Nick thinks of this. Uh-huh. So go ahead.
I was like, I'm okay with this. I think the Sonic character looks terrible, but like there have been worse things. And, it looks like a terrible kids movie. I'm like, but like the rage that the internet expressed at the appearance of Sonic the Hedgehog, I don't get at all. Like, he's still blue. He's got sneakers, like, who gives a shit? Like this, so they revamped his look from 30 years ago.
Well, I'm kind of split on this specific part of this preview. Like Sonic himself, I don't see a problem with the design. He looks pretty much like he should.
Yeah.
but in motion,
he looks like a hedgehog.
Yeah, but once they have him like running around, I'm like, oh wow, the effects on this, the design's fine, but the effects on it are like 2000, or 1999 CGI sort of stuff. Like just like, oh, it's a blurry blue thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with any of it. I'm like I watched the trailer and I was like, okay, I'll see this when it's on video. I'm not going to go to theaters for it. But like the anger that the internet experienced of like, how could you do this to our beloved character who hasn't been in a good video game in 30 years? Like there hasn't been a good Sonic game since Sonic and Knuckles. And I think that was like 1993. And Sonic and Knuckles was not super great.
No, I stopped at Sonic 2, which has, if you've never beaten Sonic the Hedgehog 2, it has a very satisfying ending for the time. Like, not so much because there's anything special that happens, but it's just very long. It's like the opposite of beating Aladdin, the old Genesis game, where you just watch them fly past a moon on a carpet. Or Jurassic Park, where you just see a dinosaur in a box shivering.
Doesn't Jurassic Park end with the Velociraptor on the bottom of a helicopter?
Yeah, it's like in a crate that's hanging from a helicopter, and it's just like there's like a hole in the crate so you can see its face and its fingers, and it's just kind of shaking its hands a little bit. But
is that the Dr. Grant ending or the Velociraptor ending?
That's the Velociraptor ending. I think that's because you got off the island. The Dr. Grant ending is a Tyrannosaurus growling in silhouette at the sky. But Sonic the Hedgehog 2 has this whole celebration of all the animals getting free and everything, and it takes like a good 5 minutes. Like it was pretty exciting that one time that I beat it.
I don't remember.
I
know I beat it.
Did you?
Oh yeah, I beat all of them.
Oh man, I think that might be the only video game I ever beat, but it took a long time anyway.
Did you ever get all 7 emeralds where you turn in this like Super Saiyan Sonic, where he's like all gold and runs super, super fast?
I don't think that's in Sonic 2.
Is that from the first one?
Maybe Sonic and Knuckles.
No, I don't remember.
Because I don't know. I can picture it, and yet it doesn't sound familiar, so I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if I actually saw that or if I'm just making it up in my head because you just described it. But anyway, yeah. So, Dr. Robotnik, Jim Carrey, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah. The Dr. Robotnik character from the game is this one-dimensional evil guy. So, if it's like Jim Carrey having silly fun, I'm on board. I'm still on board.
I'm not a Jim Carrey fan, but I'll say that like in the preview, I was going, oh, they let Jim Carrey be Jim Carrey again. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
He's doing a silly voice and acting silly. It could be a lot of fun. I just did not get the hate from the internet for this movie. That it's like a movie that has no business even attempting to be good. Like, I was surprised that Jim Carrey is even in it. Like, they must have just parked a big truck full of money outside his house.
I don't know how much it costs to get Jim Carrey in something these days.
Although
I'm sure he still has money.
He still demands quite a fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, as far as like the reactivity to it goes, the one thing I don't get, and you said beloved character, and I'm like, how did anybody ever get a sense of this character from the game? Like, he spins around and hits things. Like, what is there to say? Like, that's not what Sonic would do. Like,
yeah, well, he had like his own TV show for a while too.
Did the TV show character have much character?
He was voiced by Jaleel White, TV's Urkel.
Did he ever say, did I do that?
He did on Family Matters.
But not as Sonic.
I don't think he said it as Sonic, no. But like, there's like a lot of internet memes like making fun of it because I think in every episode of the Sonic TV show they would do like a like at the end of a G.I. Joe where they're like, and here's a special lesson for you kids.
Oh yeah, like a little PSA.
Yeah, thank you. And I think they would do that in Sonic and the Sonic cartoon because there's like a bunch of gag ones on the internet of him going like, "Don't light your house on fire, kids." Something like that.
Huh.
Which is good advice, you know, to not light your house on fire.
Yeah.
In case you were thinking about doing it. But yeah, like the biggest complaint I heard about the movie is just the character design. And I'm like, but he looks like a hedgehog. Like he's got like a hedgehog
I don't know if he looks like
face.
a hedgehog, but he looks like Sonic.
I mean, he doesn't
I don't know
look
that Sonic ever looked like a hedgehog.
But I mean, this movie character looks like a hedgehog. Like if you look at like the face of a hedgehog and look at the face of the Sonic character, it looks like a hedgehog.
No,
if he wasn't,
you need to bring up a picture of a hedgehog on your phone.
All right.
He looks like Sonic. He looks like Sonic the Hedgehog, which is what he should look like.
All right,
he doesn't look like an actual hedgehog.
Well, like if you were to take a hedgehog and animate it into a cartoon, yeah, this thing looks like he looks like the Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes,
he
looks like the Sonic the Hedgehog. Yes, he looks like Sonic. But Sonic never looked like a hedgehog.
Sonic movie. Yeah, I'm going to stand by it. He's got like the same kind of nose.
You, sir, are being stubborn.
If you can talk long enough, I'm going to try and put together a picture and send it to you. So just speak for a minute or two.
Yeah, so hedgehogs are brown. They don't have their spine separated into like 3 different groups of chunks that go down their back. Nick is right that it does have a nose, and I guess it's a small beanie little nose. But otherwise, Sonic the Hedgehog looks nothing like a hedgehog. And that is all I have to say about that.
No, keep going. I'm almost done.
That's all I got.
What else do you got? Talk about something else.
So movie versus movie. I'll just throw one of those in there. And this is going to sound like just one movie, but this is the movie versus movie that I want to float your way.
Uh-huh.
Alien versus Predator.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Alien versus Predator. Why won't this go over? I'm still working on this thing.
Well, while we're speaking of Alien versus Predator, I saw on, I think it was Netflix last night, that Freddy versus Jason is on there. And I was almost tempted to watch that. But then I thought, I actually enjoyed Freddy versus Jason when I saw it in the theater. I'm not sure that's going to happen again. I have no confidence that experience is going to hold up. So I chose not to, and I will just leave it in my memory as a pleasant experience.
I liked Freddy versus Jason too. I also enjoyed it. I was hoping that they would do a sequel to it because I feel like it did well enough to warrant a sequel.
I think they were going to at some point.
I think at some point they were going to involve Ash from The Evil Dead, which would have been a terrible idea.
Yeah, that sounds familiar too. There was supposed to be something with all 3 of them in it. And yeah, I don't know about that. Actually, I'm starting to feel like maybe I never saw Evil Dead. I'm pretty sure I did. I know I never saw Army of Darkness. Is there an Evil Dead 2 or is Army of Darkness, is that Evil Dead 2?
There's an Evil Dead 2 and then Army of Darkness.
Now, Evil Dead, the first one, isn't so much a comedy as the second one in Army of Darkness, right?
I've never seen...
Maybe I did see the first one, but I never saw any of the comedy ones.
I never saw the first one. All right, I've finished creating my masterpiece here. I never saw the first one, and I never saw Evil Dead 2, actually. But I've seen Army of Darkness about 40 times.
Wow.
And I feel like I get it. I sent you a photograph all over the internet.
Yeah, I am bringing it up right now. No.
They have the same nose.
Yeah, you just keep saying that. It's a black dot. Anything. Winnie the Pooh has the same nose. I could put a picture of Winnie the Pooh right next to this picture of a hedgehog, and it would be equally as hedgehoggy.
Listeners, I'm going to put this picture on the website, and please weigh in about whether or not the Sonic the Hedgehog looks like an actual hedgehog.
And note that Sonic the Hedgehog has a different colored mouth than the rest of it, and that it's got ears that you can see, and that the hedgehog does not have ears you can see.
Hedgehog the Hedgehog has I just wanted to say Hedgehog the Hedgehog. So movie versus movie, Alien versus Predator.
Yeah.
You know what we should do is Alien versus Predator versus Freddy versus movie versus movie, Alien versus Predator versus Freddy versus Jason.
I enjoyed Alien versus Predator also.
I enjoyed it too, but that's another one of those movies where I'm like, doesn't need any people in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the show is getting a little long, and maybe we should hold off on Alien versus Predator.
Yeah, it got a little long while you were putting together your
my masterpiece.
Hedgehog versus Hedgehog.
Yeah. Matt, anything to plug?
No, I got nothing this week.
Okay. Like I said, check out thisweekinfilm.com. You can see the picture that I put together live on the air of Hedgehog versus Hedgehog. You can also find out anything you want to know about the show. Oh, the podcast is now available on Spotify.
What?
If that matters to you. If you're already listening to us, continue doing so. But if you are listening to us and you haven't left us a review on iTunes or Castbox or Stitcher, wherever you get the show, please do that. It really helps us out somehow. And I guess also tell your friends about the show. Tell 3 friends about the show this week, and tell them that you won't be friends unless they listen to the show anymore.
I mean, tell friends that you think would like it, that you like it.
Threaten your friends with the show.
Don't just go, hey friends, there's a podcast called This Week in Film. It's not very good, but it's there.
Yeah, don't be honest about it. Just but yeah, This Week in Film, you can find links to all of our different, wherever you want to find us, you can find us there. So I guess if that's the end of the reel, we'll see you next week in film.
Thanks for coming.